It's time for another update on my personal weight loss challenge, and I want to share with you the amazing difference that using Allulose is making to my blood glucose levels and my ketones. Hi, welcome to my channel. If you've not been here before, I'm Sue, and I share information about eating a carnivore, ketovore, proper human diet, and other ways to help us live our healthiest, happiest lives using the best of modern knowledge and ancestral wisdom. I've been eating a carnivore/ketovore diet since May of 2022, and what I've realised over that time is that a mostly meat-based diet is the proper human diet and has amazing health benefits. For myself, eating this way has brought me back from a really bad place with my health, and it's created so much healing in my body. It's hard to share it all without sounding like I'm exaggerating. I have a lot of videos sharing my journey, but I'll be doing a video going over all of my results since eating this way soon, so watch out for that one. But for now, I just want to say that miracles have happened and continue to happen, and for all the healing that's taken place in my body, I'm incredibly thankful. However, the one thing that's eluded me over the almost 3 years since I began is any substantial weight loss, and that's something that I really want to have. I've lost a little weight, about 10 kilos in almost 3 years, but I've still got probably 20 kilos or so to go, and my weight has been pretty much stalled for the whole of 2024 until it suddenly went up about 4 kilos just before Christmas. So I've been getting just a little bit frustrated. Each year I've set a goal to get this weight off, and it just hasn't happened. So once again, I made the commitment to myself, and I started 2025 with a plan to go strict carnivore for the month of January, which of course is World Carnivore Month. I jumped into the BBBE, or beef, bacon, butter and eggs version of carnivore on the 1st of January, but I made the decision to quit about 3 weeks in and to go back to my usual diet, which is probably more ketovore because it includes a small amount of plants, just some kimchi most days, a bit of lemon juice sometimes, herbal teas, and some herbal supplements for my gut or liver, just depending on what I'm working on. And the reason that I quit the BBBE challenge was because of my histamine intolerance symptoms again. It seems that every time I try to go strict carnivore, this is a problem for me. I did a video talking about what happened. If you want to go check it out. Now, the most annoying thing was that I had actually started to lose some weight. I was tracking my food, plus I was monitoring my blood glucose levels and my ketones. About 2 or 3 months prior to starting BBBE on the 1st of January, I'd started eating my main meal in the morning because that's supposed to help with weight loss and fasting glucose and ketones, but it just really wasn't working for me. So about a week or two into January, I decided to go back to eating my main meal at dinner time, and I also decided to try using Allulose. I'd been looking into the research on Allulose and its effects on blood glucose. It seemed to me that my blood glucose is always just a little bit too high. I struggled to lower my fasting glucose, and I struggled to get into ketosis. I started listening to the doctors and other experts who talk about ketosis once again, and I also started diving into information about insulin resistance, what that means and how to reverse it. Now, because of my experience over the past 3 years, my lack of any substantial weight loss, no matter what I tried, and the fact that my fasting insulin tests weren't showing any improvement, I'd come to the conclusion that my insulin resistance either wasn't improving, or if it was doing so very slowly, and I need to fix that. When I look back over the years, I'm actually pretty certain now that I've been insulin resistant for most of my life. I had weight issues as a child, which was unusual back then. I always had a sweet tooth, a huge appetite with no satiety, and even though I cleaned my diet up as an adult, I have to admit that even when I was eating a very clean vegan or vegetarian diet, my diet was always focused on carbohydrates, and the sweeter the better, with sweet flavors and large quantities of fruit. I was a bit of a whiz in the kitchen, and I'd make raw desserts and slices made from organic dried fruits and nuts and sweeteners. I was convinced it was okay to eat these because they were healthy. But at the same time, I now realize I was satisfying my sugar addiction that was always driving me. I simply went from eating the sweets that I bought as a child from the local shop, and once I was a bit older, the baking that was made from wheat flour and white sugar, to the healthy sweets in the form of fresh and dried fruit, dates, figs, honey, maple syrup, etc., etc. So even in the years when I was satisfied that I was doing a good job of managing my weight because I was much smaller, lighter and fitter than I'd been in my late 20s, this explains why I could never get my body lean no matter how many hours a day I exercised, how much weight I pumped at the gym or how clean or healthy my diet was. I always had body fat that was too high. I had great muscle. I was strong and I was fit, but I was still always fat. And I remember being asked more than once, something along the lines of, how come if you do so much exercise and you eat so healthy, you're still fat? My alcoholic Danish neighbour in Australia asked me that very question one day when I refused once again the highly processed junk food nibbles that she was putting out on the table. My answer was, I don't know, just lucky, I guess. Suffice it to say that there's always been a weight problem that just never seemed to be resolvable. Now, I'm going to say here that I've also realised over the last 3 years that I have a condition called lipedema, which does make it harder for my body to use my body fat. So that's obviously part of my lifelong weight problem that I was unaware of until recently, as was the case with the genetic variations such as MTHFR and some histamine gene that I've also discovered in the last 3 years. But the truth is obviously that eating all those sugars and carbs were the biggest part of my weight issues, along with the insulin resistance that I now know is a thing. But now that I have some knowledge and understanding about insulin resistance, I'm also pretty sure, fingers crossed, that I'm going to be able to finally resolve it, which gives me hope and feels amazing. Hey guys, quick interruption. This is too good not to share. If you're looking for the perfect sweetener that won't spike your blood sugar, let me introduce you to RX Sugar, pure allulose with some serious science behind it. RX Sugar isn't just any allulose. This company is leading the way in cutting-edge research on how allulose impacts blood glucose, insulin resistance, and even boosts GLP-1, the hormone that helps regulate appetite and metabolism. They're creating some interesting products containing allulose, and they've got an incredible team of scientists backing them, including Dr. Ben Bickman and Dr. Nick Norwitz, two of the top experts in metabolic health. So if you want a sweetener that tastes amazing, supports your health, and is backed by real science, check out RX Sugar. I'll drop a link below. Give it a try and let me know what you think. Now, back to the video. What I've realized is that to reverse insulin resistance, we need to get our bodies truly fat adapted and able to use ketones. Now, I used to talk about getting fat adapted in my early carnivore days, but I know now that I didn't really understand what that meant. I do now, I think. To be truly fat adapted means that our cells aren't reliant on glucose, but can use fat and ketones easily. Now, what I understand is that when we've been insulin resistant for a long time, our cells are used to using glucose. Glucose is a faster fuel for our bodies to burn. However, it's not the preferred fuel or the best fuel for our cells. Anyone who's spent some time in ketosis knows what it feels like to be in this state, and the way our brains work on ketones is so much better than when we're running on glucose. I currently can't believe the change in the way I feel, but more on that soon. When our cells have been bombarded with so much glucose for so long that they've actually started to resist it and say, no more, which is what insulin resistance is, then they're in a state that doesn't allow them to use ketones or fat easily without some change in their function. And so if our cells can't easily use ketones, even when we're not eating carbohydrates, then from my understanding, our liver is going to make glucose through the process of gluconeogenesis, either from the protein that we eat or from our own muscles, to provide fuel so that our body can function. Now, this is my layman's understanding of how this works. And so if you're sitting there listening to me and thinking she's got that wrong, please let me know in the comments below. I'm always happy to learn more. So anyway, back to the allulose. I've used allulose a little bit over the last year or two, but just in the occasional carnivore ice cream or cheesecake. And I actually threw the first packet of allulose I'd bought away because I was a bit sus about this new sweetener and whether it was a good choice. But then probably about a week after I got rid of it, I came across a video by Ben Bickman talking about how good it is for blood glucose control and insulin resistance, and that got me interested. So I bought some more. But I still just used it occasionally to make a treat for Christmas or for special occasions. However, when I started listening to more information about this sweetener and began to really understand what it was, a rare sugar that is almost the same as fructose but has the opposite effect in the body, and I started learning more about the research that's been done, I became a bit more intrigued and I wanted to learn more. What I learned is that while it can be used as a sweetener, it can also be used as a supplement to lower blood glucose levels and reverse insulin resistance. And it also raises GLP-1 just like Ozempic and Wegovy, those GLP-1 agonists that people are using for weight loss, but it's nowhere near as aggressive and it doesn't cause the side effects like losing huge amounts of muscle. When you listen to different experts and doctors talking about the studies, they all talk about the benefits of consuming allulose with carbs and how it stops the blood glucose spikes. But what if you're not eating carbs? I figured that the way my body was responding to my food, even on my almost no-carb diet, it wouldn't hurt to try and see if consuming allulose would make a difference, and it has. I found that I had to take it slow, as it upset my gut initially, but after a false start that made me realise I couldn't do too much allulose at one time, especially on an empty stomach, I dropped back to just a quarter teaspoon once a day, and then I've gradually worked up from there to the point where I'm now having 3 teaspoons a day split into 3 doses. So basically I'm having 1 tablespoon of allulose per day. I have a teaspoon in my morning cup of dandelion coffee. I have another around midday-ish, and then the third with my supplements and some water at dinner. What I've found is that my average blood glucose levels have gotten lower overall, and most mornings, my fasting glucose levels are around 4.4 or 4.5, which is fantastic, considering at the end of December they'd been as high as 7.1 when I'd been eating a lot of dairy. And even when I dropped the dairy, they were between 5.5 and 6 most days, which has been my average for the last couple of years until I started on the allulose. As my allulose consumption went up, my blood glucose levels went down. Sometimes I will still get a reading of over 5 in the morning, and I'm not sure why that happens, but I'm trying to work it out. For the most part, though, they are lower than they've been historically, even though I'm eating 1 meal a day most days, which means I'm eating a large meal in the evening. The other thing that changed dramatically are my ketones. I can't believe how good they've been. Prior to allulose, I was lucky to get a reading of 0.7, but with allulose, my readings are consistently averaging between 1.0 and 1.8 and have been as high as 3.5 after a huge dinner with loads of fat the night before. And I'm feeling it. My brain is working amazingly well, and I feel great most of the time. So much better than I have been for ages. I'm also finding that I can write way more easily. I've always enjoyed writing, but over the past few years, I've struggled to get any kind of flow happening. And so I'd pretty much stopped writing at all. It just felt too hard. Not now. I'm sitting here writing the notes for this video and the words are just flowing. It's so very different. And the other weird thing is that I can type fast and with accuracy. I used to be a really good typist. I learned back when we used those clunky old typewriters and had the tea towel over our hands so we couldn't see the keys. We had to learn to touch type, and I was fast. But again, as I got older, my typing became slower and less accurate. It feels like that is now reversing in just the last couple of weeks. I know, it's weird, but it's true. I have to say that my brain using ketones is amazing. This is a very different experience now than it's ever been in the past. I guess having higher ketones and lower blood glucose is creating that change, and I love it. So why do I want higher ketones, apart from the brain function? Simply because if we have plenty of ketones floating around, then our cells are going to gradually start using them again and adapt to using fat for energy rather than glucose, because ketones and fat are the best fuel source. And then when our insulin levels are lower, because our blood glucose is lower, then our cells and our mitochondria are going to gradually start functioning properly with the good, clean, burning fuel that is ketones and fat. Now, what about my weight loss? How's that going? Drum roll. I'm down just over 3 kilos or 6.6 pounds since the beginning of January, which is 6 weeks. So I'm averaging about 500 grams or about a pound a week, which is awesome. If I keep that up, I will reach my weight loss goal before the end of this year. What I've learned from the experts like the wonderful Ben Bickman is that fasting helps with insulin resistance, and it's not so much about reducing calories as it is about creating ketones and blood glucose for me at this point. The other thing I've noticed with the allulose is that it definitely reduces my appetite. I have basically no hunger when I'm fasting, which again is great. So far, I'm really happy with my allulose results, and I'll be doing another update probably in about 2 weeks as I'm going to be away for a bit. If you'd like to try RX Sugar Allulose, my link is below the video, and if you've got any comments or questions, fire away below and I'll get to them as soon as I can. If you like this video, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss my future updates, and of course make sure to hit the like button and share with anyone who might be interested. I thank you very much for watching, and I will talk to you again another day. Goodbye for now.